Okay, so as I promised, I'll do copy and paste. You can do that with a very familiar Control C, Control V, or paste. You'll notice the paste isn't lit right now because I haven't copied anything. There's a duplicate. I never use it because I just copy and paste. Duplicate, when you click on it, it duplicates, and it duplicates it right on top of what you've done. So you have to kind of move it out of the way to even know that you've copied and pasted something. Oops. Okay. I'm going to move this a little bit, and I'm going to select it and click copy, and then I'm going to click paste. And you'll notice when you copy and paste, it actually does move it over a little bit. So you can see that that creates a new one, and then I can move it wherever I want it to go. And I could paste multiple ones if I wanted to. Okay. And then along those lines, I want to show you a really cool trick. I'm going to make this smaller so I have room. And I'm going to make what's called an array. So an array is when you want to, like a series of pillars or something like that in architecture. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to paste it. And then I'm going to move it to where I want it to be. Okay. Then if I paste again, oops. I was wrong. I forget sometimes. I use so many of these different softwares. So in Tinkercad, copy and paste works great for one thing, but when I wanted to show you the array, you have to use duplicate for that. So I paused and tried to figure out what was going wrong. So if I duplicate and then I move my object so that it's nicely spaced, and then I duplicate again, it will create new ones at that spacing over and over again. And that's a nice way to create, they call it an array or a series of objects, a nice way to create a series of objects. So again, all I did was I selected it, I duplicated it, and then I moved it. You can't do anything else or it'll forget. If you do anything else now, if I click in the work plane or anything, it will forget that it'll assume I don't want to make a series. Software often assumes you're smarter than you really are. So you have to immediately hit duplicate and keep hitting it until you're done with your series. Okay, so now I just want to look at a few other shapes with you. I'm not going to go through all of them. As you saw, there's zillions of them. I'm zooming in with my zoom key. I love this zoom to fit. It's a really nice tool, so I'll repeat that for you. And again, when I'm zoomed in, you can see that it's made a cylinder that's really a 20-sided object. So I can go up to 64, and it really is, for all intents and purposes, a cylinder at that point. But that would take forever to print. And in general, I would say 20 is pretty smooth, 30 is very smooth. So if you want something very smooth, just stick to 30. Anything greater than that is going to be kind of a nightmare to work with. The bevel will create a radius essentially on the edge of your cylinder, and the segments create steps. I'm not sure why they don't call it a radius and steps with the cylinder, but they don't. So you're just kind of stuck with that. You can change you can change it to a non-cylindrical object, an elliptical object, by just grabbing a handle or by typing in a different dimension for that part. Okay, I'm going to make this guy kind of small and get it out of the way so that I can bring in a cone. I'm going to bring in a cone. So a cone is just like a cylinder, right? So a cone is the cylinder, except its top radius and its bottom radius are different. Whereas in a cylinder, the top and the bottom are locked to each other. They can't possibly be different, or it wouldn't be a cylinder anymore. So the way Tinkercad thinks of it is, if you want a cylinder, you probably want to stick with the top and bottom being the same. But if you make a cone, you might have it turn into more of a megaphone by changing the top radius. And again, you'll probably be doing that by typing in parameters. Or if you want to change the bottom, you could make it smaller. You could make this into a cylinder, by just having them be the same. And again, and then the other thing on here is the height, which I would never change by changing in the shape inspector. Maybe someday I'll show you the problem with doing that, but I don't want to waste your eyes on that. Just know, never change height, width, length in the shape inspector. Just change these kind of things that you can't do any other way. And then sides, once again, just controls how smooth it is. Notice you can turn this into a three-sided polygon or a hexagon or a nonagon as well. So, and the same is true for the cylinder. You can change the cylinder into a polygon as well. So the cone just has some superpowers that the cylinder does not have. And then there's several different things that make kind of ring-shaped objects. So one is the torus. So this is kind of like and again, I'm just going to zoom to fit. This is kind of like a donut. And with this, again, you would change the size by clicking here and typing in how big it is, or the height by typing here or pulling it up. The radius actually changes how big the inner part of the donut is, which you can't do any other way except the shape inspector. And the tube changes just sort of the size of the donut itself. And then steps, once again, you could turn this into a polygon shape all the way down to a triangle, or you could go up to 24 sides, which is rather smooth. So that's a torus. And like I said, there's slightly different superpowers for each of these shapes. So you'll just get used to that. So the tube is more of a cylinder, a hollow cylinder, right? So this has a radius, again, just like the torus. It has a wall thickness, which is what changes how hollow it is, which is a little different from the torus. And it has sides. And because it has sharp edges, it also has a bevel and steps, which they in this case call a bevel segment. And then finally, the ring has this superpower, which is you can change the profile. And we're going to do a lot of this when we use more serious software, more powerful software, but you can actually change the profile of, like, if you imagine the cross section of the ring, you can change that in here. Okay, and to finish up, I'm going to hit home just so I can see everything, and I just want to show you how you start working with multiple things. Again, if I click on this and I want to work on it, I'm probably going to zoom to fit over here. If I want to get back out again, I could scroll out with my scroll wheel if you have a mouse, or I could just hit home. It takes me home. I can play around with this cube to sort of get my way around. Often you're going to be working with multiple objects. So if you want to select multiple objects, you can click on one and hold the shift key down and click on another, and it will add that to your selection as long as you actually click on an object. And then you can see the selection grabs them all, and now I'm moving them all together, and I could actually change the size of them, the whole group. I could even change the height of the whole group if I wanted to work on multiple together. If I want to just get rid of one of these that I have selected, if I hold on the shift key and click on that one, it will deselect it. So if you're holding the shift key down, it will add anything that isn't selected. It will subtract anything that is selected. Just play around with that a little bit. And you'll get used to this as you're working in design. You'll need it when we're doing design work. I'm just doing this walkthrough so you're somewhat familiar with those things. This guy, if I click and I just start dragging a rectangle outside, I can't be on an object when I do this because it'll move the object. But if I'm outside and I start dragging a rectangle, whatever that rectangle touches will be included in the selection. So you don't even have to completely surround things. Whatever it touches will be included in that selection. So that's how you select multiple objects. And then I wanted to, I want you to play around with these. I'm going to give you a little project next where you're going to play around with these different shapes. But this guy's kind of cool. The scribble I just place the scribble, and then it actually lets me sort of scribble a shape. So this really is like working in a paint program. So once I completely enclose something, it'll show me a preview. And then if I click done, there's my scribble having been made. Okay, so that's it for my basic walkthrough. The next thing I will do with you guys is, I believe, get you onto working on the name tag, but I could be wrong. You'll see in a minute.